Our greatest dread has always been the knowledge of our own mortality. But tonight, we shall hurl the gauntlet of science into the frightful face of death itself.
Invention always begins with an idea. Inventors must allow their imaginations to go where no one has been before.
Give my creation life!
And when they say necessity is the mother of invention, keep in mind some ideas are better than others. The world saw an explosion of new ideas in the 17th century. European thinkers challenged conventional thought based on traditional authority and mysticism. A new wave of examination changed the way people looked at their world. The scientific revolution was underway. Logic and reason replaced faith and age-old beliefs. Such a rational and methodical approach, still used today, is known as the scientific method. New ideas yielded new knowledge found through observation, hypothesis, and experimentation. At the forefront of scientific discovery was the astronomer Copernicus. He held that the sun, not the earth, was the center of the universe. Galileo expanded on Copernicus's hypotheses and perfected the telescope. And Isaac Newton studied principles of gravity and developed a new system of math called calculus to prove his theories. These scientists transformed the way we view the solar system. Revolutionary ideas like theirs often met resistance from traditional authority. Galileo was even tried for his ideas, but the efforts of those scholars put science and discovery into motion. Gradually, scientific reasoning was applied to political, economic, and social philosophy, and the late 17th and 18th centuries became known as the Age of Enlightenment. Ideas born during this time greatly influenced all of society. Even in the American colonies, these new philosophies helped shape the Declaration of Independence. The spirit of scientific inquiry was captured more than 100 years later by an American inventor, Thomas Edison. One of the world's greatest inventors, he gave us the record player, motion picture, and the electric light bulb.
All progress, all success springs from thinking. If there is one evil in the world today for which there is no excuse, it is the evil of stupidity.
He did it on his own. He wasn't given an opportunity. He created his opportunities. He had the tenacity to pursue things. He had the vision to imagine things and see where he could go and make his own opportunities.
As you can see from the image above, the Earth sits in the center of the universe. It does not move, ever. The other planets all move in a circle around it. The Sun is the fourth planet away from Earth, and it moves in a circle around too. The stars are all in a ball that exists beyond the other planets. That makes perfect sense, right? Right? No? You don't agree? Well, maybe this will help explain it. You see, it is very simple. The Earth is in the middle and all the planets are spinning around it. I know some people will try to say that the Earth is moving too, but that is ridiculous. I mean, come on, I'm standing right here on the Earth and I don't feel it moving. I'm an adult and a teacher, I must be right. You're just kids, what could you possibly know? Okay, now that you know what it was like to live before the scientific revolution, let me admit I made that all up. Of course the Earth moves, and of course the Sun is in the middle. I just wanted you to see what the early scientists had to deal with. A revolution is a dramatic, meaning huge, change. It is like doing the total opposite of what you were doing before. Science changed from what people thought to what they observed. Instead of just saying something because it made sense, they took the time to see it for themselves. They started doing actual experiments to test their ideas.
You have all these new discoveries. You have the discovery of the new world. You have new instruments. You have new techniques. You have new industries.
In spite of the innovations of the era, the ancient teachings of Aristotle, dating back to the 4th century BC, are the bedrock of conventional wisdom. Aristotle's view of the heavens puts Earth at the center, with the stars and planets revolving around it. This geocentric worldview seems to be supported by the Bible.
The Bible makes reference to the Earth having been created and set on its foundation, not to be moved forever.
By the time you reach the age of Galileo, Aristotle has been the platform for knowledge for centuries. When somebody has been presented for such a long period as the ultimate authority in absolutely everything, it takes a lot of work to take that apart.
The first person to present a viable alternative to Aristotle's geocentric worldview is a Polish astronomer named Nicholas Copernicus. In 1543, he proposes a heliocentric view of the world, with the sun, not the Earth, at the center.
Galileo was another great scientist. He continued the ideas of Copernicus. Here's a little bit about his background info.
In 1564, his father was a professional lute player, but due to a lack of demand for top lutenists, was forced to trade in cloth. He ensured, however, that his son benefited from his full attention, and by the age of 10, the young Galileo excelled at the lute. Initially, Galileo wanted to become a monk, but his father, who couldn't afford for his son not to have an income, persuaded him to become a doctor instead. So, at the age of 17, Galileo began studying at Pisa University, where he became obsessed with the study of Euclid and Archimedes. By now, he had grown into a large, flame-haired rabble-rouser, enjoying fine wine, good living, and poking fun at people. He loved.
Galileo wanted to observe closely how the planets worked. There was no way to do it. He heard about a toy that let you see farther called a spyglass. He got one, and messed around with the lenses, and created a more powerful device known as a telescope. He used it to study the planets closely. He noticed, for one thing, that Jupiter had its own moon, and that moon moved in a circle around Jupiter. That meant that the Earth wasn't special in its design, other planets could be central bodies as well.
Always fascinated by new devices, Galileo heard that a craftsman from the Netherlands had found a new use for common eyeglass lenses. The first telescope to reach Venice was a toy, a novelty, built to amuse partygoers.
Spectacles, compared to telescopes, are very low tech, but they had been around for several hundred years. It was only when lenses became available in certain range of strengths that one could take the weakest convex lens and combine it with the strongest concave lens and get an appreciable magnifying effect.
Galileo set out to turn the Dutchman's toy into a useful device.
Hearing reports of a new invention from a lens maker in Holland, I determined to fashion a device for myself and was able to make considerable improvements in it.
Galileo realized that spectacle makers could not give him the lenses that he needed in order to make this device more powerful. They just weren't good enough, and they weren't the right strength. And so, in order to improve the instrument, he had to teach himself to grind lenses. And that is extremely difficult, and it certainly was in 1610.
At first, Galileo was only interested in the optics of the telescope. With his improved lenses, he increased its power tenfold. But his lenses did more than magnify. By reshaping these pieces of glass, Galileo would eventually reshape our view of the world. With his telescope, Galileo first set out to make some money. The naval arsenal of Venice was the greatest in all of Europe. What if the arsenal had a way to spot enemy ships hours before they appeared in the harbor? Wouldn't this give the Navy a distinct advantage? Installing his new device at the top of St. Mark's Tower, Galileo arranged persuasive, real-life demonstrations.
Numerous gentlemen and senators more than once climbed the stairs of the highest bell towers of Venice to observe vessels so far away at sea that 2 hours and more were required before they could be seen by naked eye without my spyglass.
From within the Venetian Senate came a handsome order for Galileo to supply the arsenal with spyglasses. Galileo was given a generous lifetime salary for his service to the Republic. Part scientist and part self-promoter, for now, his future seemed bright. But soon, his telescope would launch a dispute which would threaten to destroy its creator.
Galileo wrote a book in 1610 to document his findings from his telescope. He wasn't as afraid as Copernicus, because the Church had been weakened, only slightly, during the Reformation. He also believed that the Pope would support his ideas. He was wrong. The Church refused to admit that they were wrong.
Tell me when you get a good picture, Joe.
370 years later, David Scott tried the same experiment on the surface of the moon. By repeating the experiment in a vacuum, Scott confirmed what Galileo had argued.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And I'll drop the two of them here and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time.
Falling balls, swinging pendulums, what does it all mean? Galileo was overturning 2,000 years of scientific orthodoxy, and he was doing it not just by observing the natural world, but by carrying out experiments with the help of new scientific instruments which he himself was developing.